What's up guys? Today we're going to check out Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire on 4K UHD. I'm not here to talk about how bad the movie is, I'm just going to share some thoughts on the audio and video quality. Now let's go over a few tech specs. The movie was shot in 4K, it's got a 4K DI, it's rated PG-13, runtime is 115 minutes, aspect ratio is 239:1, and the audio is in Dolby Atmos. Before we take a look at the audio and see how active this mix is, if you don't know what the Atmos viewer is, you can find a link down below in this video's description that tells you all about it, what it does, and where to get it. You can also find a list of all the gear that I use for these 4K reviews down there as well. Now jumping into the Atmos viewer, right from the opening credits, this looks to be like it's a very aggressive, dynamically mixed Atmos soundtrack. Unfortunately, that's not exactly the case. Coming from the last Godzilla Kong movie, which was great by the way, the height channel effects don't get used quite as much as you would think they would have. The big Kong vs. Godzilla fight that we've all seen in the trailers hardly has any kind of height channel usage. Not even music is up there. Even the big boss battle at the end, there's only a few seconds here and there that'll light the top speakers. And even when they do get some action, it's barely noticeable. And this happens for most of the big action fights in this movie. Luckily, we get some really good atmospheric scenes. For example, the jungle scene at 41 minutes in, there's some really good atmospherics such as birds and insects placed throughout your room. At 35 minutes in, there's more ambiance when Kong finds himself inside of a cave, which makes it sound like you're inside of a cave. And the most top channel activity starts at 57 minutes in and lasts for about 3 minutes, when the natives are giving the Upper Earth people a tour of their sanctuary. It's mostly musical extension, so it's really nothing too impressive. I think the best surround sound effect comes in at 1 hour and 37 minutes in. There's a shot of this wave that's freezing, and you can hear the ice crystals circle around your room as the camera pans. Like I said earlier, there might be a second or two of height channel activity during some of the bigger fights, but most of the action stays within the lower channels, and it does play out more like a 7-channel mix rather than what they did in the previous 3 movies. Where the audio track does shine is going to be in the bass department. I still think King of the Monsters has the best bass out of the Monsterverse, but this one isn't all that far behind. I mean, you could pick any one of the fight scenes and you'll be blasted right into the back of your chair. It's almost like they felt they could spend less time putting the height channels to use. Instead, let's just focus on the big booming bass because people are just going to love that more. It hits super hard and does dig really low, as you would expect from a movie like this, so it doesn't disappoint in that arena. Dialogue was always easy to hear. And thank you to Kaleidoscape for supplying me with this copy of Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire so I could bring you, the home theater movie loving community, this 4K review. Now if you're tired of waiting a month for your new releases to come out on physical media, and you're interested in grabbing a Kaleidoscape, you can find a link down below in this video's description to our channel partner, Dream Media. Video quality wise, this looks like Godzilla vs. Kong. It isn't 4K crispy, but it's got some pretty good detail. It's also got a layer of digital grain to give it that film-like feel, so if you are bothered by film grain, there's a good chance that you're not going to like the way this looks. As far as the CG, unlike the realistic approach that I just saw in Godzilla -1, this movie plays more like a CG animated cartoon rather than going for a real-life-like feel. So when you see real-life elements mixed in with the digital effects, I felt it looked kind of out of place for most of the time. Even adding in the digital grain can't hide the suspect CGI. However, if you do like cartoons, then you probably will like the way this movie looks. Like I said earlier, it's not 4K crispy, and with the digital grain added in, the overall look can be a bit soft. The actual humans have a really good level of detail, it's the digital creatures that can appear soft. As for the HDR, it's got a max CLL of 968 and a max FALL of 457. It's a bright transfer with vivid HDR colors that follows the same visual aesthetic as Godzilla vs. Kong, so there's a lot of bright purples, reds, oranges, greens that will really show off your display's brightness levels. The color palette does have that heavily saturated look, and the black levels can look as if it's crushing detail, while the specular highlights do look overblown at times. Now this is a stylistic choice and not a negative on the 4K HDR transfer. I do feel like it's a step down from Godzilla vs. Kong as far as the effects, but it's still got that bright HDR that folks love. So I'm gonna go with an 8.8 for video. For audio, this again is a step down I feel from the last movie. It plays out more like a 7-channel mix for about 90% of the runtime. If you are impressed with gobs of bass and don't care for a strategically crafted, detailed audio mix, then this Atmos mix will be right up your alley. It's loud, it's bombastic, it's gonna get an 8 for audio. So what are your thoughts on Godzilla X Kong on 4K? Have you seen it, and what did you think of the transfer? Leave a comment down below and let me know. Now, if you do want to pick up this movie, I'll leave some links for it down below in this video's description. As always, guys, thanks for watching. If you want, you can follow us on social media, and if you want to support the channel and get exclusive content or great discounts on audio and video gear, then stop by our Patreon page. Be sure to like this video if you found it useful and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you again in the next video.